Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. You've got a group. They're heading out for this really significant trip, a mission trip.
Right.
And they find themselves feeling kind of awkward about their matching T-shirts in an airport food court.
Yeah, that image really sticks, doesn't it? It's a great starting point.
Exactly. So this is all focused on a short-term mission trip back in 2006, Dominican Republic, a group from Central Wheaton Church.
And what's great is the source material we have from our listener. It's incredibly detailed, like being right there with them.
Totally. Observations from the ground, what they expected beforehand, how they interacted with missionaries already there, with local folks.
The work they did, even how they felt processing it all later. It's a really close-up look.
Yeah, so we're not just going to list what they did, like built a wall, played with kids. We want to dig into the stories behind that.
The narratives, the assumptions they carried.
Right. The messy reality of trying to connect across cultures, trying to serve even when you mean well.
And you, the listener, shared this wanting that quick but thorough insight, those key takeaways.
And that's the mission for this deep dive, to pull out those aha moments.
It brings up that big question right away, doesn't it? How much do our pre-trip ideas shape everything?
Mm-hmm.
And this material lets us trace that whole process, from the send-off, loaded with meaning,
To the little surprises and shifts during the trip, and even how they talked about it afterwards. We'll follow that whole arc.
looking at first impressions, those moments of connection, the different activities.
Okay, let's rewind. Departure day, church parking lot. Those maroon T-shirts are key. Apparently, making sure everyone wore them was a thing.
Yeah. Classic group trip moment.
Then the photos, the prayer circle. What stood out to you there?
Well, the missionary narrative was already crystal clear even before they left the ground.
Oh, so.
The prayers themselves, very specific themes, sharing the gospel, feeling compassion for the lost, how the trip would change them personally.
Ah, okay, so a defined purpose. Evangelism, supporting the long-term workers, personal growth.
Exactly. That framework was set.
And those shirts.
Right.
Wow. Pour Out Your Soul, a map of the DR, Global Outreach 2006.
And the DR Project logo, like mimicking the Dr. Pepper font.
Yeah. And pairing it with Psalm 42.1, My Soul Thirsts for God, super deliberate symbolism.
Very visual, packed with meaning.
And then after this serious prayer, this earnest purpose, you get the get her done send-off.
That contrast is fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
That mix of profound spiritual ambition and this very American, can-do, almost lighthearted vibe.
It kind of highlights that tension you often see in short-term missions, right? Big goal, short time frame.
For sure. And the fact that even the parents, maybe less involved in the nitty-gritty planning, seem to get the core mission. It shows how strong that narrative was in their community.
But then, bam, airport food court, suddenly the shirts feel different.
Yeah, the source mentions feeling exposed.
Wondering what strangers are thinking, maybe even Dominicans, seeing this bright declaration of, Christian mission.
It's that shift, isn't it? From the in-group comfort zone of the church.
To the wide open public space where your symbols, your intentions, they're suddenly up for grabs, open to interpretation.
It highlights that gap, potentially, between the intended message and how others might read it. The performative aspect, maybe.
And right in that moment of feeling a bit conspicuous.
This idea communitas pops up.
Yeah, spotting another group from their church network. Bright green shirts, heading off for Katrina relief.
And feeling this instant connection, this shared identity, like we're all doing the same kind of thing.
Even though the destinations and tasks were totally different, it's that feeling of being part of something bigger outside of normal life.
A powerful bond, being set apart for this mission experience, but also that underlying expectation to do stuff, not just observe.
Which sets the stage perfectly for landing in Linda Vista.
Right. Met by Phil Van Sant, heading to the team house.
Pink cement, iron fence, tile floors. Described in detail.
And the student's reaction is telling.
Surprise, a little bit of disappointment, that it was actually kind of nice.
Someone joked about not feeling deprived enough.
It bumps right up against those pre-trip ideas of sacrifice and hardship, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The expectation, maybe from stories or images, was probably something much more basic.
Yeah.
So relative comfort felt off.
Yeah, a bit of a disconnect.
And then they start noticing the differences.
Oh, but it's mixed. Scooters, yeah. Lush plants, different buildings, expected stuff.
But also nice cars.
Mm-hmm.
Not the uniform otherness maybe they were subconsciously geared up for.
Which leads to what the source calls this fetishizing of small differences. What's that about?
It's fascinating. They seem to really zoom in on tiny things.
Like
Like Jeremy getting super excited about finding Magnolia vanilla ice cream,
Mm.
or this whole quest for Diet Coke specifically in 12-ounce aluminum cans.
Not just any Diet Coke. Or Coke Light.
Right? Strong opinions on that. And wanting the real American kind of Gatorade.
Okay, so these aren't huge cultural gaps.
Not at all.
Hmm.
But they became these really significant markers of being somewhere totally different.
It's like they needed those little things to confirm the narrative, right? We are definitely not home.
Exactly. If it felt too familiar, maybe it would dilute the feeling of being on a mission field.
And the source links this to maybe a U.S. tendency to see culture as kind of superficial. Things you can easily spot, like food or drinks.
Yeah, rather than the deeper stuff. So if culture is just different ice cream, then experiencing it is pretty straightforward.
But then things shift. The work project, building walls, Gato Negro.
And Phil's description ramps up the intensity.
Hmm.
Extremely violent, one of the poorest barrios.
Okay, now this maybe aligns more with those pre-trip expectations of encountering real hardship.
And this is where that theme of transcending difference really starts to come through.
How so? Despite seeing the poverty.
There are these moments of connection, like singing Alelu, Gloria a Dios, with some local boys in the stairwell.
Ah, that anecdote. And Anne's comment, people all over the world sing that word.
Leading to this realization, like, Alleluia is Hebrew. It's international.
Yeah.
It created this shared spiritual thing that seemed to just wash over the cultural differences for a moment.
That feeling of unity through faith.
Yeah, the source calls it ethnic transcendence, like being part of one big global Christian family where the other stuff fades back.
And that feeling often got stronger through giving things or just connecting with the kids.
Yeah, definitely. Henry giving his shoes to the boy whose flip-flop was broken. A really powerful moment described.
Yeah, that emotional connection through seeing and meeting a need.
And the team members often felt they were making real relationships, really connecting, just through playing games or small gifts.
Interpreting it as breaking through the language barrier, the cultural barrier.
And here's a key point the source makes. They often seem to frame Dominican culture mostly through the lens of poverty, meaning interacting with people they saw as poor became this especially profound way to feel like they were transcending culture, giving something, connecting with a poor child. That felt like the core cross-cultural experience.
Which brings us right to how they interpreted that poverty.
Yeah, they expected to see it, but weren't always sure how to process it.
Emma expecting the worst, then being surprised by the airport in the house.
But then having that wow moment, seeing the barrios, it shows that tension, that uncertainty.
Between the expected extreme poverty and the more complex reality.
And that anecdote about the guy with the donkey cart.
Oh, yeah. Hey, James, now your trip to the DR is complete.
It's so telling, isn't it? Like checking off a box on the developing country stereotype list.
Wow. And then that awkward moment at the church in the barrio.
Where initially, the North American mission teams actually outnumbered the local kids.
Yikes. Kind of challenges the whole us coming to meet their vast need narrative a bit, doesn't it?
Subtly, yeah. Raises questions about coordination, impact.
And looking at the houses nearby wood frames, tin roofs, different states of repair.
Led to different takes within the group. Emma saying tiny houses, but Henry thinking it's probably okay if you're used to it.
Shows how subjective it is. And then Emma pivots completely, points to a big house on a hill and says it's her dream house.
Just shifts the whole conversation away from the poverty they were literally just looking at.
The source also highlights how they often read the kids' enthusiasm, their energy.
As proof of emotional or spiritual poverty.
Ah, interesting. Like the story from the woman in Sosua, seeing kids in Santiago as starved for attention.
And find their desire for hugs. Heartbreaking, that link. Material poverty must mean emotional lack.
Which then makes the team's presence, their attention, feel really significant, even if building a wall wasn't super efficient, maybe.
Exactly. It elevates the relationship part, the emotional connection, as the real ministry.
And this focus on the spiritual or emotional need helped draw a line, didn't it, between ministry?
And the other stuff, like shopping, sightseeing, tourism.
Which leads us to that kind of tricky intersection, mission and tourism.
Yeah, the source points out they don't naturally fit, right? The mission narrative is often about sacrifice, service.
While tourism is about pleasure, enjoyment, maybe indulgence.
Yet this trip, like so many built-in tourist activities.
And you could see the shift. The students joking about cane fields, dreaming of the beach, hunting for souvenirs.
Classic tourist mode kicking in.
And the leaders having to gently remind them, remember, we're guests, trying to keep them grounded.
The hike to the waterfall, described as Utterly ordinary.
No big spiritual debrief afterwards, just a nice hike.
Reinforces that separation. This is fun time, not mission time.
But then the visit to the Bate, the Haitian sugarcane workers' village.
That hit differently. Phil describing the horrific living conditions. A real sobering moment.
But even that serious moment gets undercut pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, back in the van, James makes that gross joke about, well, feces on the cane leaves.
And Anne just shuts it down. Just come down to reality. Whoa.
It just shows that whiplash, that tension between confronting harsh realities and wanting to switch back to leisure mode.
And the all-inclusive resort. That really cemented the separation.
Totally. Different clothes, only speaking English to staff, shopping for souvenirs just like any other tourist.
Very distinct from the mission part of the week.
And those souvenirs become really important.
Jeremy's comment is gold. I need to get something just to be like, see, I really did go to the DR.
It's about proof, isn't it? Tangible evidence to help build the story back home. Validation.
Which leads perfectly to that final debrief on the beach.
Yeah, focusing on the positives, relationships, the work they did, feeling unified.
And being grateful for their own lives in the U.S. It's the start of crafting that post-trip narrative.
Figuring out how to tell the story, make sense of it all for themselves and for everyone back home, fitting it into that mission framework.
Okay, so wrapping up the key things we've touched on, the huge power of those pre-trip stories and expectations.
How complicated it is to actually encounter and then interpret difference.
That very human drive to connect, often through shared faith or giving.
The definite, sometimes awkward line between the mission activities and the tourist ones.
And how important things like souvenirs are in shaping the story you tell later.
Which leaves us with a thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Yeah, how much do your own assumptions shape what you experience when you go somewhere unfamiliar?
And what does it really truly mean to help or serve when there are cultural divides involved?
Also, think about that instinct to look for the familiar when you're somewhere new. We all do it, right?
Mm-hmm. How does seeking that comfort, maybe unintentionally, also exoticize the place or the people you're visiting?
Definitely gives you a lot to reflect on, maybe think about your own travel or service experiences.
What stories did you have going in? How did it actually play out, and what story did you tell afterwards?
It's a complex area, these cross-cultural encounters. We hope this deep dive gave you some interesting angles to consider.